Now, your mate, Michael Veitch, is up to something very special. It's a theatrical performance that's a little bit different.
Yes, and it's at the Shrine of Remembrance, so you know that Kelvin Cunnington's not likely to make an appearance. Michael Veitch joins us. Hello, Michael.
Oh, for goodness sake. I spent 20 years killing off that character, and now you have to bring him back up. Gentlemen, hello, Simon. Hello, Phil. How are you going?
Bruce, it is.
I'm sorry, Bruce.
Good.
You throw me now.
Now, where was the character from? Fast forward, or?
Yes. He was... Bruce, he was the old little dweeby office nerd that used to laugh at innuendos terribly and
yes.
And why people why he caught on, I've got no idea. It's one of those things that, you know, it's always hard to think up comic characters in comedy, but usually it's good when you do, but this was a case of careful what you wish for, because I could never get rid of it.
I love the flight attendants.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And they still sometimes upgrade me too, if I'm honest.
Is that right?
After all these years.
No.
Oh, come up the front, come on.
Yeah. Now, just getting back to this, the presentation of the Shrine of Remembrance is very pleased to present the premiere of Michael Veitch's performance of Flack.
Well, I think one of the last times we spoke, Bruce, was when I was doing my 2 books, talking to fellows who flew during the Second World War and getting their stories.
Yes.
And what I'm doing is a sort of a theatrical presentation of it, wherein I actually tell a series of 5 of the stories as the gentlemen themselves, with my younger self, slightly younger self these days, sort of moving in and out of it, as, you know, giving it a bit of context and actually a little bit of humour and a little bit of, just sort of overall kind of understanding of it for people who aren't up on the kind of history of the Second World War aviation. But it's a total labour of love, and it's not just the Shrine, but we start a theatrical season in the Yarra Valley next month as well. We're doing 3 performances, which I'll get to in a bit. But that's the essence of it. I sort of was so touched and so moved by some of these wonderful old gentlemen and what they did, and so modest and so unassuming, and so Spitfire pilots and Lancaster pilots, and for decades they just kept their war stories to themselves, and sort of some blow-in like me comes along and I happen to know a bit about it, so they were able to open up to me a bit more.
So you're narrating it, aren't you, Michael?
Well, I'm performing it. I perform five different characters, 5 different men who are basically telling their stories.
The approaching the Shrine, or did the Shrine approach you, or did you approach the Shrine to perform there?
We did a preliminary performance of it in May, and the deputy head of the Shrine heard about it and came along just to sort of, because it was a military-themed performance, and she was curious about it, and came along and said, this is just what we need to be in conjunction with our Bomber Command exhibition, which opened last week at the Shrine. Yeah. And she said, this is perfect for us because it gives life to the experiences of war and the experiences of individuals who go through war.
Michael Veitch, where did your interest in particularly aviation and the war years, where did that interest come from?
Bruce, I've never been able to answer that question because I simply don't know. I don't have serving. Well, my granddad, who I didn't know very much, was in the Navy. He was on mine sweepers and destroyers during the war, but he died when I was very young. My dad was just too young. He actually signed up for the RAAF in 1945, but the war ended and he didn't go. And I simply don't know. I've always been a bit of a nostalgia buff for the past, and it just kind of clicked with me. I'm a hopeless pilot. I actually tried to learn to fly and was seasick every time I went, airsick every time I went up, so that didn't work. It really is just a fusion of my interest in the period and the era and the people that live through it. I do love these men very much, and in a way it really breaks my heart to see them fading away, even though there is still quite a lot left. There's plenty of very lucid gentlemen and ladies, for that matter, living well into their 90s now. But, so many of the stories of what they did have already been lost, and this is a way of actually preserving some of them, and some of the stories are incredible. I mean, the bloke who was at 22, was a Lank pilot flying in 1945. He was shot, he was anti-aircraft fire, detonated in the Bombay. His aircraft exploded. He was expelled out of it like as he says, a pip squeezed from an orange, totally unharmed, and came down in a neutral country, totally unharmed. The rest of his crew were killed. The Battle of Britain pilot, who's a fellow I met in Canberra, and he was hilarious. He's English, the only Battle of Britain pilot I've ever met. But he was shot down on about the first day of the battle. But he kept telling jokes like, there's a wonderful one of them. He was a friend of Churchill's. He was on Churchill's security detail later in the war. There was that wonderful one of Churchill and Attlee in the Prime Ministerial lavatory just after the war, and Attlee and Winston makes two definite steps to one side, and Attlee says, "I say, Winston, you're very standoffish today," and Churchill replies, "I know, it's you damn socialists. Every time you see something big with good prospects of quick growth, you want to nationalize it."
Fabulous.
Oh, he's just a delight. And he flew, James ended up an Air Commodore and retired, or served and then retired to Australia in his later years. But he was shot down when he came up behind a Dornier and was thinking, I better get out of the way because when I hit this firing button, it's going to blow up. It didn't blow up. His guns jammed, and a bullet from the rear gunner of the German Dornier went through his lower left leg, sheared it off, also severed the control cables of the Spitfire, also pierced the front fuel tank, so it went into an uncontrollable 45-degree dive. He unstrapped and was kind of half sucked out of it, flailing around with one leg and being soaked in petrol. And he survived.
Wow. That's amazing. Incredible stories. It's a lovely thing that you're helping to keep these stories alive. As you say, so many have been lost.
So many have been lost, and so often I get, and the early response that we had to this when I did it as a preliminary performance in a kind of a private theatre in North Melbourne just to test it out, was that, God, I wish I'd asked my dad more about it. But he just wouldn't tell me. Because that's what these fellows were told. Don't talk about it. No one understand.
And they didn't, and they had that bottled up for years, coming back to coming back home.
Because now it's, and rightly so, our service personnel coming back from these sort of awful places, sort of world trouble spots, they're at least attempted to be counselled and to say, look, we know you've gone through trauma, let's try and do something about it. Not back then, it was just, shut up, boys, don't even think about it. Which, of course, you can't. That's impossible. So they carry these awful demons with them for often the rest of their lives.
Now, Michael, it strikes me that you're one of a long line of comic performers who have turned their hand to more serious things.
Yes, well, that's only because I got too old for comedy.
I was going to say, is this an age-related thing?
Oh, it could well be. I don't know. My interest in this long predates my interest and passion for comedy, I can tell you.
He used to enjoy you on the ABC Sunday afternoons.
Oh, thank you very much. I had fun doing that.
Yeah, it looked as though you did. Now, this is on Wednesday, the 23rd of October.
Okay, Wednesday, the 23rd of October. This is a free performance at the Shrine of Remembrance, 5:30 for 6. Good to get onto their website and just book in. Just look up the Shrine and you'll see its talks and upcoming events. That's Wednesday week, 5:30 for 6. Only goes for an hour. But then we're doing we start, I'm going to be touring Australia with it for the next couple of years, so you can get in first. We are in the 16th, the 7th and the 8th of November, Montrose, the Burringer Theatre, which is in Upway on the 7th, and the wonderful new Memo Theatre in Healesville. That's on Friday the 8th of November. Can I give out a number?
Sure.
1300 368 333, 1300 368 333, or yarraranges.vic.gov.au, yarraranges.vic.gov.au.
That's terrific.
Yes, thank you, guys.
Michael Veitch's performance of Flack, we've been talking about at the Shrine of Remembrance and touring around Victoria.
And Australia.
In the near future. But the date you must remember is Wednesday, the 23rd of October, 5:30 for a 6 o'clock start.
At the Shrine.
At the Shrine. Very
Thank
good,
you, Bruce.
Michael.
Lovely to talk to you.
Nice to talk to you too. Thanks so much.
Bye.